Hello and welcome to today's lunchtime lesson. We're looking today at leads and opportunities within Sage CRM, and it's part, of course, of the Sage CRM fundamentals course that we're following at the moment. Now, this is the ninth lesson within the 10 that make up the Sage CRM fundamentals, and what we're looking at today is the topic of handling the overall sales side of Sage CRM. So we're looking specifically at the idea of processing new leads and how to process an opportunity. That's quite a large topic, and I'm going to be saying lots of times during the session, this is covered on another course. So we are looking at an area in which we're going to be touching on things like quotes and orders, mail merge, communications, all things that are covered elsewhere within Sage CRM. Everything that we do, though, in this lesson is recorded. It is going to be edited, and then it's going to be added to the support and training YouTube channel. And if you follow the QR code here, you'll find yourself up onto the course, and hopefully you can find all the other related education for today. What we're looking at, though, are the way in which leads and opportunities work within Sage CRM. So data can flow into Sage CRM from a variety of sources. So there might be initial sales inquiries or requests for brochures that are captured on a corporate website. They can flow into Sage CRM from self-service, from portals, from social media campaigns, from inbound emails, all using different features of Sage CRM and its APIs to trigger either the lead or the opportunity workflows. And there are different things. So leads you can think of as an unqualified contact or early stage sales prospects, sort of at the moment that they are very much a suspect rather than a prospect. And they are very often gathered from marketing campaigns, trade shows, website inquiries. And what you would want to be able to use them for is to determine whether that organization has the potential to become a customer, a genuine contact that you want to be able to nurture into the future. And so you may actually have very low grade information associated with that suspect. So you may only have a name and a phone number or an email address. And typically you don't even know whether they are to be treated as business to business or business to consumer. And so eventually you're going to be looking at the idea of nurturing that information, eventually getting to a point where you can have a firm company record and a firm person record when you've qualified all of that information. And so eventually the end point, the life cycle for the lead is going to end up to the point where it's disqualified. You know, it's never going to go anywhere. It's a poor fit, etc., to a business, or it is going to be qualified and converted into being an opportunity person or company. So that's the idea of the lead information. The opportunity information is very much more really tied into the sense that there's a real prospect of a sale at this point. So opportunities we need to think of as being that qualification process for sales where there is potential revenue. And the purpose of the whole of the opportunity life cycle is to manage and track the progress of a sales engagement with the customer, all of the related communications that are generated. And so what we find is that there is always for a quotation, there's always for an opportunity, there's going to be association with a company and one or more people. You could have different stakeholders involved in a sales opportunity. There's going to be a managed process in which you need to know which stage you're in, what the expected close date is, what's the forecasted about who's actually the owner internally, who's the sales rep for that process, and which team might be involved in it, all moved through a structured sales process that we call workflow within Sage CRM. And consequently, there is going to be a sort of a natural end point for the life cycle of an opportunity, that they're either going to be won, or they're going to be lost, or potentially just abandoned. It's not lost so much as simply the opportunity goes away. And we can keep track of all of what's going on within inside the process. So let's actually go in and follow the life cycle. And I'm going to follow the life cycle all the way from a lead all the way through to a potential sale. And so here I'm going to log on into Sage CRM. I happen to be logging on to my instance of Sage CRM, which is a demo system using standard demo data. I'm logging on as Susan May, who's a North American sales manager. And so here I am logging on, and this is her dashboard, and you can see immediately the dashboard that displays information about the sales opportunities that are in progress across her team. There's other KPI information about the budget that's coming in, the targets, etc. And what I can do is I can develop this idea, but actually, instead of driving things from the dashboard, which I could do, and I'll be talking about dashboards in another lesson, I'm going to look at some information that I've imported into the system. So I'm opening up the My CRM menu, and I'm switching across into the groups. And here you can see I've got a new group set up of leads that have been imported using the data upload. We discussed how groups can be created out in another lesson about how groups can be created from an import. That allows me to drill down, and I can start to see those are the these are the contacts from a trade show. And I could use this group to perform different actions, but actually I want to have a deeper look at them. So what, instead of jumping in here and thinking I'm going to send them a batch email or whatever, I want to now go and search for them using the common description of the lead. And note that I'm searching for a lead, so these are all lead records. And now I'm looking at leads, and you can see that I've got my result set here of all the records that are associated with expense management in hospitality. So those were the companies that I spoke to at the trade show who had sent delegates to that presentation. Now I've drilled down into one of these leads, and we can see the company. They're in Quebec, and I can start to think about what that means. Now look at the structure of the screen here, and you can see that you can understand that it's a very simple screen that brings together a diversity of information. I could have entered it manually, and it would have just been like entering a company or a contact, something that we've explored earlier in the course. But here we can see that the lead includes contact information from the company and person, all in one record, as well at the top of the screen, some key information about the commercial opportunity. So what you've got is the lead detail, and then underneath there, towards the other red box that I've outlined, is the lead company details. Now, at this stage, we may have minimal information, so we have to regard a lead as suspect rather than prospect. And what we will do with a lead like this is to follow a path that the system administrator has laid down. So it is governed by the definition that the system administrator has put into the system. It could be different for each business. Some companies can decide they don't even want to use the lead entity at all, but rather capture everything into the opportunity. But there are some advantages that we can do to keep the lead entity as the place where all the data upload occurs, because that's where the suspect data, we want to be able to isolate that and only deal with through real data that is representing revenue opportunities inside opportunities. But let's assume we're going to follow this particular structure, and you can see back here, I'm back inside my lead summary screen. Now, notice that there's the workflow button on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, you can also see that there's a progress box that contains the fields that are typically controlled by the workflow process. Your own implementation of a workflow for leads may be very different. There may be lots more or very few, comparatively few fields contained in this box. This is the, if you like, the fields that are there to be properly managed that make sense in the context of your business. And we can edit information either wholly within inside the workflow, or we could make a decision that what we want to do is edit it outside of the workflow. So if I click now the change button, I'm starting to edit certain data outside of the workflow process. Notice the box in the details, the lead progress box, is not switched into edit mode. So here, this is where you would put data that has to be entered and managed through workflow only. But the other fields, they can be changed if necessary, so I can fine tune this if I want to. Now, if I click save, or actually I've just refined the details a little bit, and I can click save, and we are back inside the screen. Now, that change was made outside of workflow, and so they're not tracked. They just are changes that have been made. This is why the idea of tracking changes and keeping an audit trail is why many organizations actually put quite a lot of emphasis on the lead progress so that everything is tracked. Now, if I do click the workflow button here, you can see that I can make changes and I can add details, which I can include a tracking note that allows information to be captured that also explains the action taken at each step of the workflow. So once the record, I've clicked save. Once the record has been saved, the progress is updated, and I want to continue to progress this lead. So I need to, well, in this case, I need to make sure I speak to the customer in order to confirm their details. I need to click a create callback action in my workflow. So if I click the callback action, what this is going to do is it's going to create a task for me. Now, this is an interesting example of workflow. Workflow can make all sorts of alterations to data behind the scenes, not just to the record that you're workflowing, but it can also create work across in another entity. You can actually fine tune workflow to such an extent that you can insist that the other work is done before you can continue with the main workflow. That's something that is discussed within the lessons that look at the administration of workflow and the definition and configuration of particular workflow. So there's there and elsewhere within inside the training courses. But in this case, I'm creating a task. It's going to be scheduled within inside the communication area. And once I've saved it, that record in the communication table has been entered. If I look at the tracking tab, I can see the progress that has been made within my workflow, including where it says that I've got contact scheduled. And if I look at the communications, I can actually see, yes, this is true. A new task to contact the prospect is being shown in the communications tab. And this same task, because it's could be time-based, will show in the user calendar and the calendar list as well. So if I click on the checkbox that's next to that to be able to click on the task to mark it as complete, I can now add in extra details if I want to confirm that I have in fact spoken with my customer. So this task has been completed, and therefore it no longer appears on the communications list when it's filtered just to display pending communications. I've done that work. I've rang the customer. If I return to the lead summary, I can now, based on that conversation, decide to do the next part of my workflow in the example workflow that I've got here, and that is rate the workflow, rate the lead. So I can click to rate the lead, and this allows the user to decide the potential of this prospect. Is it in fact moving up to a prospect level rather than simply being a suspect? And so, yes, I've put in a note here, and I can save that. Now, once I think this is a good sales prospect, I may want to promote the lead defined within the lead area of Sage CRM up to being an opportunity. Now, this is done through the concept of convert to opportunity. So if I try and convert to opportunity now, click on the button, you can see it on the right hand side, you'll see that I can't convert a lead into an opportunity until I have actually linked that lead to an existing company in person. This is part of the process of ensuring that the data that we have is complete. It's good data. Now, if I click the OK button to get rid of my error message, I'm returned back to my lead screen. And what I've highlighted here is there's this little link that says to add or find the company. So I got this data from an import where people had registered to attend the seminar, giving me all the information that I could insist at the point of registration. But I might need to make sure I've got even more details before I can go through and correctly create a company or a person from this record. But if I click the link now, you can see that this is starting the process of entering a new company. Now, actually, what has happened is that the name of my company has been picked up and a search has taken place to see whether it already exists. If it isn't found, then what it will do is it will show up the entry screen to allow me to enter a new company and a new contact using the information from the lead. Now, you'll note that there's a transfer of data from the lead screens to the company screens, and this mapping of data is something that can be controlled by the system administrator. So you could theoretically capture more information about a company within the lead process that is then brought across into the company screen. Those fields have to be on both of those screens to be able to have that. But that could be very different in your implementation to capture all of the information that you need. Now, once we have got that, and I choose to save this, now that I've saved a new company into Sage CRM, what I have to do is link it into into my lead. And so I'm going to click select company, and that will link the company and the default person for that company now back into my lead. It's properly configured. So this lead is associated with a real prospect inside the system, making it easy for me now to then convert to being an opportunity. So I can now click the convert opportunity button, and this starts the new opportunity process. And once again, the fields that are in the lead screen can be brought across to this new opportunity. And this mapping of fields between the leads entity and the opportunity entities is configurable by the system administrator. We can have all sorts of information being brought across. It's up to you or up to your organization to decide what information is captured at what stage and how it's automated to bring across into the opportunity. Now, if I try and save something, you'll find that the creation of a new opportunity actually may require data that must be completed at this part of the promotion. And here you can see I was missing a couple of things when I tried to hit the save button. So I've got an error message and it's telling me that the certainty field needs to be completed. Now here I need to complete the certainty field, and note that this field is just about any field inside the screen that could have been automatically populated. I could actually have in my workflow to say that actually automatically all new opportunities are created with the default value of a 20% certainty. If we're used to the idea that 1 in 5 opportunities are sold. So it could be and could actually be within the sophistication of workflow, something that is automatically calculated for me based on my historic track record across the organization of selling. So I could put in a calculated value in here as well. But certainty is a field that is going to become important to us in the next lesson when we discuss sales forecasting. But here, let's click on to save this information. And once we're in this new saved opportunity record, do you notice how, because this is come from a lead, it's got a view lead button, and I can click on the view lead button to go into looking at that historic lead. Now I might want to jump back, and here you can see I have jumped back to look at the originating lead, and I can view all of the details of the old record. And I may be that as part of my work on this opportunity, that I may want to review the tracking information to remind myself of all of the stages that it's gone through to the point where it became an opportunity. Now, if I click the View Opportunity button, you'll notice, by the way, once a lead has been converted to an opportunity, you can no longer edit it. You can see here, for example, there is no change button. So I can't change it anymore. It is a historic record archived here inside the system. But if I click to come back into the opportunity, I can see that the information associated with the lead has been transferred to the opportunity. Not just those fields that we saw, but also if I click on the communication tab, you can see that I've inherited the history of the contact with the prospect, all helping us inform the progress of the new opportunity. So I can look at what was sent in an email. I can look at previous documents, etc. So if I click onto the summary screen, you can see on the right-hand side of the opportunity summary screen the workflow actions that are available at this point within the process. Now, the workflow actions for the opportunity are completely configurable by the system administrator using the workflow engine. Again, this is your one workflow in one organization is going to be vastly different from another. And so workflows may vary in their complexity and steps, but basically the purpose of the opportunity workflow is to ensure that a consistent process is followed that minimizes mistakes and maximizes the potential of the sales opportunity. And there may well be different workflows available depending on the nature of the sales opportunity. So an opportunity once attached to a workflow will follow a different set of processes through to its point of conclusion. Now, I happen to be using the default workflow provided within the Sage CRM demo data. And if I click to accept this opportunity, I'm going to get going with this process. And I can update the tracking information in the way that I need to. And I can then review the record that has just been saved. And if I then click to qualify the opportunity, I can do that because I know the prospect was already contacted when it was still a lead. I can edit the details that I need to do, plus save that. And now what I can do, once I've had that conversation with the customer, I can think about sending the customer a quote. And so I'm going to create a new quote. You can see I'm using the new menu to do this. And here you can see that I've started to define a new quote. Now, how the quote screen works may be very different in your implementation of Sage CRM, as this is going to depend on whether Sage CRM is integrated with an accounting system. The way it integrates perhaps with Sage 300 is going to be different from the way it uses the integration with Sage 200 or with 100 or with Intact or wherever. And so the screen here, however, this default screen is defined and configured by the system administrator. And in fact, there are separate lessons on the Sage Support and Training YouTube channel that discusses the configuration of quotes and orders. And here you can see that I've saved a quote record and I'm ready to add the line items. Now, the linking and the creation of a line item and the linking of the price list, the way in which the product families, the products, the units of measure, and the currency work are all explained in detail in another lesson. So here you can see that I've selected a product and I need to add this to the quote, and I can save this now. Now, I've actually added a couple of line items to the quote, and from this screen I can send a quote as a PDF attached to an email. I just need to click the Send Quote button. And so now I select the template that I want to use. This process of driving a mail merge and how templates are created, again, is discussed in another lesson. But I'm selecting one of those, and I've selected my template. A PDF merge has taken place and has been generated, the PDF document, which is then attached to the email, which I need to complete. And once I've completed my email, I can click Send Email. And now I'm returned to the quote screen, and from here I can click the communication tab, and the email that I've just sent is listed under the quote, and it will also show that it's associated with the document. This email is also linked to the opportunity and the parental company, and I can click on the quote description in the top content area of the screen to return to the opportunity summary screen. And if I look at the communications tab, I can see that the email and the quote that I've just sent to the customer is listed here as a completed task. I can update the opportunity to indicate that a proposal has been submitted. So I'm filling in a tracking note to confirm the action taken, and this moves me through to the workflow. Now, what we can see here is that the Sage CRM has two ways of counting or evaluating the forecast value of an opportunity. These figures can each be used for slightly different purposes, and we'll discuss this in the forecasting lesson. In many implementations, the forecast value is kept in sync automatically with the total quote value as part of workflow, and this is something under the control of the system administrator. Again, this is somewhat talked about in another lesson. I've just clicked, though, now on the quotes tab, and this shows the quote that I've raised. But of course, you may need to send several quotes to a customer for consideration. This may be because the customer may need a quote apportioned in different ways to allow for different budgets to be used, or there may be haggling over the prices as part of the negotiation. Individual quotes can be cloned to speed up the process and standardization of the quote creation of alternative quotes. And here you can see, actually, you can see a clone quote button on this screen. Now I can review the existing quote and convert this to an order once the customer is happy. And so I'm going to click to convert this, and I need to add a few more details to complete the order. And once I've done that, I can save the record. So if I save my record, this order confirmation can now be sent to the customer, and I can pick a template in a similar way to the quote, and the email can generate, or has generated here, the PDF merge for the quote, for the order details, and it's been attached to this email that I send. And once the email has been sent, once I've clicked the send email button, I'm returned to the summary screen for the order, and I can now update the opportunity record. So I need to click the OPPO details in the top content area, and here I can review all of the correspondence, and here on the communications tab, the complete history of customer interactions are listed. Now, I can progress this workflow, returning back to our summary screen. I can mark this as a sold opportunity. I can fill this in completely as another closed deal, unless I actually want to carry out another action from here. But here I'm going to mark this as closed. I'm entering the final tracking note and closing the deal. Tracking information and information captured within tracking screens can be hugely useful. Imagine that this had been a lost opportunity. This was, in fact, me marking this as the end of an opportunity through a lost sale. We could be recording why we're not successful. We could be classifying the reasons. We could be recording the competitor. All of that information will help us win the next deal. But here, I'm recording this as a done deal, and so I can save that, and all of the data captured during the life cycle of the lead or the opportunity can be reported on and used to fine-tune and classify that data for other purposes. The tracking notes explain exactly what was done, what data was changed, and who performed the action. And here, if I go over to the operational side of the business, I'm just switching over to my dashboard, which has the embedded reports that I need, looks at the graphs and charts and figures that will give me all of that managerial control that I want. But I'll look at the power of dashboards in another lesson. So what we've seen is that we've tracked a lead through its process in its workflow to the point in which all of that suspect data is then results in the creation of a company and a person. We've looked at the promotion of the contact potentially into the Sage accounting system. Because that is part of the nature of Sage CRM. We look at the idea of converting into an opportunity. Once we've got the opportunity, we can process that, generating quotes and orders, again, potentially syncing with another accounting system. And we have used the process of leads to opportunities as a single workflow, but in fact, we can look at these two entities as quite different, understanding that they have different purposes. So if we think about the idea of the nature of something that is a qualified sales opportunity, these are mostly leads. Opportunities are mostly dealing with qualified information. Opportunities are, if you like, the real deals that are potentially up for grabs. We look at the idea of a lead. They are not until appropriately they are not until nearly closure linked to a person or opportunity. Opportunities are always associated with a contact to which the deal is associated. Workflow for leads can be very, very simple. Opportunity workflows can be more complicated, require lots of different actions, and may generate lots of information changes behind the scenes as well. We saw our task being generated. That's the sort of thing that we can be doing within the context of a sales opportunity workflow. Ultimately, a lead's destination is to become details of a person and a company with an associated opportunity. Our opportunity's destination is something that is either going to be lost, closed, or abandoned. And when it comes to leads, we're dealing with low-grade data typically, which becomes richer as we move through the process. Opportunities, we are starting with rich data, and it only becomes better as we move through and we become focused on forecasting, that generating the information needed for forecasting. That brings us to the end of this lesson. It's been quite a crowded lesson. I make no apologies for the amount of information that we've put into today. I hope that that has been useful to you. We're going to be finishing our cycle of training for the Sage CRM fundamentals tomorrow when we look at sales forecasts. Let's see if anyone has got any questions. To say thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you at tomorrow's lesson. Thank you and goodbye.